The first time a specialist told my son his symptoms were just anxiety, I watched him shrink in his chair and I realised that even though I was there, he didn't know how to push back without sounding difficult. I'm Kate, and today we're talking about how to advocate for yourself when your doctor dismisses your symptoms. And this matters because the quality of your medical care depends on you being heard. And right now, too many people with Crohn's are leaving appointments feeling invisible, frustrated, and like they somehow failed. Now, I've sat on both sides of the desk. I've had clients come to me after their doctors minimise what they're experiencing. And as a mum, I've watched my son try to explain his symptoms that didn't fit the textbook, only be told it was stress or diet or in his head. The worst part, he started doubting himself, started thinking maybe he was exaggerating, maybe the pain wasn't that bad, maybe he should just push through. And I've even coached my husband through this after 3 surgeries when he tried to describe new symptoms and get the, "Well, your scans look fine" response. And here's what I know. You're not imagining it and you're not being difficult, but you do need a strategy because walking in unprepared and hoping to be believed isn't working. Most people think advocating for yourself means being loud or forceful, that if you just explain it better or sound more serious, your doctor will finally listen. But that is not how it works. Doctors aren't dismissing you because they're cruel. They're working in a system that gives them 12 minutes per appointment, trains them to look for objective markers over subjective responses, and rewards them for following protocols, not hunches. The real issue is this. There's a language gap between how you experience your symptoms and how doctors are trained to assess them. And when you don't speak their language, you kind of feel like your symptoms get filed under anxiety or IBS or it's probably nothing. So advocating for yourself isn't about fighting harder, it's about translating your experience into the specific data points your doctor needs. Then he can take action. And still while protecting the relationship that you have with your doctor. You can be heard and be collaborative. I'll show you how. First, before the appointment, make sure you've documented things, not during it. Most people walk in hoping they'll remember everything, but when your doctor asks you stuff, you're nervous, you feel rushed, your mind goes blank, or you just simply start to ramble. The doctor's already going on to the next question. Instead, bring a 1-page summary, not a diary, not paragraphs, just bullet points. And here's the format I taught my son. Chief concern, 1 sentence. Increasing abdominal pain over the past 6 weeks. Frequency. Pain occurs 4 to 5 times per week, usually 2 to 3 hours after eating, and it lasts 30 to 60 minutes. Pain level 6. It's interfering with my work and sleep. What's changed? What you've tried. They're the things we asked. This does 2 things. It shows you're organised and credible, and it gives your doctor the specific data they need to make decisions. Hand them the page at the start. Say, "I wrote this down so I wouldn't forget anything important." They'll often keep it for your file, which means your symptoms are now documented, not just mentioned. Second, use the phrase, "I need to help understanding why." When a doctor dismisses your symptoms, says it's anxiety or stress or just Crohn's, most people either shut down or they go elsewhere, and neither works. Instead, stay curious and collaborative. Say, "I hear you, but I need help understanding why this would be anxiety when it's specifically triggered by eating and it's relieved by bowel movements." Or, "Can you help me understand why this would be stress-related when it's worse at night, even when I'm feeling relaxed?" You're not arguing, you're asking them to explain their reasoning, which forces them to either justify the dismissal with actual clinical logic or they need to reconsider. My son used this when a doctor said his fatigue was probably just doing too much. He said, "I want to understand if it were Crohn's-related fatigue versus doing too much, what would be different? Because I'm sleeping 10 hours and I still feel exhausted." The doctor paused, thought about it, and ordered an iron panel. Turned out his ferritin was low. Third, request specific next steps. Don't wait for them to offer. Doctors are trained to close appointments efficiently. If they think your symptoms are minor or unclear, they'll often say, "Let's watch for next time," or "Come back soon." That's not good enough when you're actually struggling. So before the appointment ends, say, "What specific test or follow-up would help us rule out the thing that you're worried about. For example, what tests would help us rule out a stricture? Or what would we need to do to check to make sure this isn't active inflammation? Or I'm anemic. You're not demanding tests, you're asking what the clinical pathway is. And often just asking that question prompts the doctor to think, actually, yeah, we should probably check that. If they still say no, ask, what symptoms would I need to have for you to investigate further? I want to know what to watch out for. Now you've got a clear threshold. And if those symptoms show up, you can come back with, you said to watch for this and that's now happening. Fourth, bring a support person with a specific job. I went to appointments with my son, not to speak for him, but to be his second set of ears and his backup memory. Here's what worked before we went in. We'd agree on his goals for the appointment. What did he need to walk out with? And my job was to take notes and, if needed, restates what he'd said if the doctor seemed to miss it. For example, if my son explained his pain and the doctor moved on without addressing it, I'd say, just to make sure we've covered it, Sam mentioned pain that's waking him at night. Do you want to explore that further? Not aggressive, just redirecting attention back to what mattered. If you're going alone, you can do this yourself. If the doctor starts wrapping up and you haven't gotten what you came for, before we finish, I want to make sure we've addressed the pain I mentioned. That's actually what I'm really worried about. And fifth, know when to ask for a second opinion and how to ask for it. Sometimes, despite your best efforts, you're not being heard. The doctor's convinced it's nothing, or they're not willing to investigate, and you know something's wrong. You don't have to stay stuck. Here's how to ask for a referral without burning the bridge. Look, I really value your care, and I'd like to get a second set of eyes on this for my own peace of mind. Would you be comfortable referring me to another gastroenterologist? Most doctors will say yes, because framing it as for my peace of mind makes it about you, not about their competence. And if they push back and say, no, you can say, I understand and I still feel I need another opinion. Can you provide my records so I can arrange that myself? They're legally required to give you your records. You're allowed to seek, other opinions. This isn't betrayal. It's just responsible self-care. Here's where this leads. You'll walk into appointments prepared, not panic. You speak in a way that doctors can actually hear, and when you're dismissed, you have tools to redirect the conversation without becoming the difficult patient. My son doesn't shrink in that chair anymore. He brings his one-pager, he's asked his questions, and he knows his rights, and his doctors respect him for it because he's not fighting them, he's partnering with them. That's what I want for you. Not perfect appointments, because they don't exist, but appointments where you're seen, where your symptoms are taken seriously, and where you leave with a clear plan. You deserve it, and now you know how to make it happen. If this helps, share it with someone who's been dismissed or doubted in a doctor's office. They need these scripts. And if you want some more support navigating the medical system while supporting your gut with natural approaches, that's exactly what we do in the Crohn's method and in my one-on-one coaching. I'll see you in the next one.